Here is a sample task-based MMI station, an expert response, and tips on how to tackle your upcoming MMI. Before we get into the task-based question and the expert response, I just want to quickly reiterate what an MMI is. So MMI stands for multi-mini interview or multiple mini interview, and they are very common for medical school admissions nowadays. The MMI is a situational judgment test comprised of 8 to 12 stations with 1 or 2 rest stations. It allows different evaluators to assess your reaction to different types of questions or scenarios that reflect real-life situations. Your evaluators may be working professionals, faculty members, senior students, or even members of the public. MMI interviewers are instructed to evaluate you on the following items relative to all of the other candidates they see that day: communication skills, strength of arguments displayed, and suitability for the profession. Before you enter the interview room, which might be a real room or a virtual one, you'll have anywhere between 1 and 2 minutes to read the prompt at hand and formulate a response. When your thinking time is up, a buzzer will go off, and this is when you enter the room. Depending on the program, you'll have anywhere between 4 and 8 minutes to respond to the prompt. A buzzer will go off when your time is up. You will leave the room, and you will continue this process until all stations are complete. MMIs will consist of several different question types. They'll have your typical policy, personal, and scenario, but you might also come across acting stations or task-based collaborative stations. In this video, we will be going over the task-based question. As a professional in the field that you're entering, you will work with many people. The purpose of a collaboration, teamwork, task-based MMI station is to simulate an environment in which you must communicate with fellow applicants. Sometimes you'll perform a task, discuss a prompt, or debate a particular issue. The interviewer will be assessing you during this exercise, so it's very important to do your research and sharpen your communication skills. Here is an example of a prompt you might see for a task-based or collaborative station. In this case, we have a pair of applicants, AJ and Elise. We will be AJ in this case. We are back-to-back at a desk. The interviewer hands me, AJ, a picture of a horse, and Elise a blank sheet of paper with a pen. The interviewer asks me to describe the photo to Elise without revealing what the photo represents. Elise has to try to replicate the photo as closely as possible. Before I read you AJ's response to this question with its fellow applicant Elise, let's walk through the approach to task-based or collaborative stations in an MMI. First thing you want to do when you're completing a task with a partner is to summarize the task to ensure you're on the same page. Before you start anything, just make sure that you guys are both on the same page on what the end goal of this task is. Communication is the most important aspect and is one of the main things you're being evaluated on in an MMI. Next, you want to gather the items. So gather the items that you need to complete the task and ensure that your partner has what they need to complete the task. Even though you saw the interviewer hand your counterpart a pen and paper, or you heard it, you just want to confirm, okay, Elise, do you have what you need to complete this task before I move on? Next, you want to set up the approach. So to set up the best framework to complete the task. The purpose for these types of questions is to evaluate your problem solving, so approach the task systematically. And number 4, as I mentioned before, communicate. You want to consistently communicate with your counterpart throughout the entire task. You want to communicate with them by asking for their input, checking for their progress, and checking for their understanding. It is important that you respectfully involve your partner throughout the entire task. For our response, I'll be reading off the transcript of AJ in the MMI task that we read earlier. So remember, AJ is tasked with describing a picture to their counterpart Elise without revealing what the photo represents. So let me read you an example of what AJ would have said in this situation. I'm now AJ. I will be explaining to you step by step how to draw a picture I have in front of me. Are you ready? With your pen in the corner of the page, trace a circle from one side to the other. It will be cut off by the corner of the page. Then, draw 5 lines in a row of alternating lengths. One will be an inch long. The next will be about 3/4 of an inch. It should look like heat emanating from a source. Are you following along so far? Great. Then, closer to the middle of the page, to the left slightly, you're going to draw a series of connected half ovals, about a 1/2 inch long each. These half ovals should be drawn in a circular fashion, so you're creating another larger oval of those connected half ovals. Now, you're going to create the same image 3 more times. The first should be in the top left corner of the page, but for this one, draw it as if it's out of frame, being cut off like the first drawing. I'll give you a couple minutes to go about that. A couple minutes have passed. The next will be just below that one, and the final one will be about an inch below and to the left of the first image you drew. How are you doing with my instructions so far? Is there anything I can repeat for you? No? Okay, great. Lastly, in the foreground, trace a series of jagged triangles side by side. Some should be taller, others shorter. Let me know when you're done. Based on the approach that I laid out prior to reading the transcript of AJ's task-based collaborative station, we know why this is a good response, and the main thing is communication. They were very clear in their instructions, but also made sure to check in throughout to make sure that Elise was following along. Gave them extra time to complete the task, especially when there was a lot of steps in a row, and at the end, before finishing the final step, asked if there was anything that could be repeated prior to finishing the task at hand. Through this approach, AJ is showing the interviewer that they communicate well with others and that they will be able to collaborate well in their future profession. Do you want to learn how to tackle every MMI question type that's going to come your way? Take a look at what BeMo's MMI prep program has to offer at the link below. You can also find the link in the description of the video. You'll work with experts that will conduct mock interviews, give you real-time feedback, and ensure that you crush every MMI that comes your way. We can't wait to work with you and help you get accepted to your top choice medical school. Stay tuned for more videos just like this one, where we will give you samples, expert responses, and tips for various aspects of your medical school or your residency application. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so that you're in the know as soon as these videos are posted.